Hey everyone, we are taking a look at World of Kings and tips for setting up your classes. Now this applies to all classes, but I am specifically looking at Dragon Riders, and there have been a lot of questions on would I update the Dragon Rider setup I had from the original video. And when you're first starting out, the other video is really good, but as you get further along, I would change the setup a little bit. So I'm going to go over that here. Alright, first off, I'm going to link the other Dragon Rider video in the comments if you want to take a look at how to set up your Dragon Rider. But first off, we're going to take a look at the Dragon Rider armor. When you are using Tainted or T2, so T2 or T2 Tainted, I would go for Templar gear instead of Dragon Rider gear. It just seems to do better with tanking and everything, so it's been suggested to me to use the Templar gear. Here I'm phasing out into T3, so that's why I only have some of the gear. Once I get to T3, I'm going to go back to Dragon Rider gear, but definitely for the T2 and T2 Tainted, I would use Templar over Dragon Rider. You can switch back and forth with the Profession Master setup. Okay, for the all classes part, I would use, I'm going to talk about like the Sigils and how you would set that up for your character. Okay, under your character and the Sigils, I have a drop-down menu with 3 different setups here. One is for hit points, one is for 115, and the other one is for strength and crit. So for the hit points one, I have everything that has vitality in it that I have. So some of it I don't have vitality for, so I just am using other items. But if it has vitality, I put it in here. And the reason is some of the mobs hit really hard. And this applies to even DPS. If you're getting one shot at a mob all the time, especially High Overlord, maybe if you just switch to a new one, you want to have something where you have a little bit more hit points. City of Sai first boss seems to come to mind for me, where it hits the tank so hard. And so I often will switch to hit points for my Sigils. It just gives that little extra boost so that I don't get one shot and the healer has a chance to heal me after I get hit really hard by the boss. So I would definitely set up one tab of Sigils for your hit points. Now the next one I have for tanking is really good, and I often use this when I switch to a new Overlord dungeon. Like I've just finished 8 and now I can unlock 9, I will go in and use this for 9, for example. And the reason I title this 115 is what I want is to, if I go into my character screen and the advanced, I am looking for my evasion and my parry when I add the 2 numbers together to equal 115. Now they are not, they're close to 113 when I have this set up, but it still gets me close to having that 115 kind of max goal for my evasion and parry. And so let me think of which dungeon it is. Order Shrine Last Boss used to give me a lot of problems, so I would switch to 115 for that, but also for new dungeons. And all this does is, if it has dodge or parry in it for my Sigils, I put it in there. If I don't have enough with those, then I will go ahead and use standard ones like strength or whatever. But I do want to focus on having dodge if I have dodge, and that way I can get that as close to 115 as I can. So here you can at least see the setup for that. And this would probably mostly just be for tanks. I don't think this would apply for DPS or anything, but at least you would have a second setup for that. Now, for the third setup, I have strength and crit, and that is because strength and crit is my main thing that I want for Dragon Riders. So this is what I use the rest of the time if I'm trying to focus on DPS more, and as I get higher up and I have less problems with dying, then I want to focus on keeping aggro more. And so for that, I want to be doing more damage because that way I have more crowd control. So I usually have been using this mostly because I'm having less problems as I get bigger with dying and that sort of thing in dungeons. You can do the same thing with your runes. I don't typically change this ever, but I do have a hit point setup because that City of Sighs first boss was really hard for me and some of the overlords when I first changed. So I did switch to hit points for that also, but I don't typically use it. But you could if you find that you're having a lot of problems with surviving the bosses. And that is pretty much it for changes. I do have some other changes for Dragon Rider specific, if Dragon Riders want to know more about how I changed it. Now this is more keeping away from tanks and getting into the DPS sort of things. But for that, you want to kind of watch out if you're not high enough and you are having problems with staying alive with things. You definitely don't want to go to a more DPS setup yet, but just so you have an idea, this is how I have it set up as far as my talents, and I can go into my artifacts a little bit for the Reforge for that. But again, I'm not 100% sure this is correct as far as the Reforges go, but I'm getting there, and it works better for me, at least for crowd control, now that I don't die too much. So I thought I would at least share it. I think I should change it around a little bit, but I do have some of those here, the healing buffs, but most of it are getting kind of more into the attacks than the healing and kind of defensive ones that I was using before. So just kind of so you know what to kind of aim for as your Dragon Rider gets a little bit more stable and a little bit stronger and can take some of those hits better. You're watching VGO 40, and this is VGO Girl, and hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions about Dragon Rider, please feel free to leave some comments and I will get back to you. Thank you for watching.